Claire stared at the wedding photo on the mantelpiece, the smiles frozen in time mocking her current reality. What had seemed like a perfect marriage was now nothing but memories coded in doubt and betrayal. She had caught Ethan in what appeared to be lies, hidden calls, cryptic messages, and a secrecy that gnawed at her heart. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered to herself, running a hand over the glass frame as if touching the photo might make sense of the chaos. The divorce had been clean, legally speaking. Lawyers, signatures, and property divisions. Everything finalized within weeks. Yet the emotional debris lingered, heavier than any legal document could ever account for. Claire had walked away with dignity, but the wounds in her heart still throbbed with questions. Why had he lied? Why had he been so distant? Her friends offered consolation. "He wasn't worth it, Claire. Now you're free," another said. And they were right. She was free. But freedom didn't erase the sting of deception, nor did it answer the nagging questions that haunted her every waking moment. Months passed. Claire rebuilt her life carefully, immersing herself in work, traveling, and spending time with friends who reminded her that the world didn't end with one failed relationship. Yet, no matter how busy she became, thoughts of Ethan persisted. Not with longing, but with an unease she couldn't quite explain. One rainy afternoon, Claire returned to her apartment after a long business trip. She unlocked the door, expecting solitude and silence, but a package on the floor caught her eye. She bent down to pick it up. The label read, "Claire, for your eyes only." Her heart skipped a beat. The handwriting was familiar, eerily so. She hesitated, then carefully opened the package. Inside was a file, confidential documents detailing something she couldn't immediately comprehend. At the top, a note in Ethan's handwriting read, "I know you think I betrayed you. Everything in this folder is why I had to lie. Read it when you're ready." Claire's hands trembled. Confusion, anger, and curiosity warred within her. Why now? Why reveal the truth only after their marriage ended? Over the next few days, she pored over the documents. Slowly, the pieces fell into place. Ethan hadn't been cheating. He hadn't been deceitful for selfish reasons. Every lie, every secretive call, every hidden action had been part of a meticulous plan to protect her from a threat she had never fully understood. An unscrupulous business rival who had been targeting Claire's family company. Her chest tightened as realization struck. The man she had divorced, the man she had blamed and judged, had actually been protecting her all along. But knowing the truth didn't make it easier. Betrayal had already left scars, and trust, fragile, delicate trust, would have to be rebuilt from scratch. Claire decided to confront him. Not angrily, not for revenge, but for answers. She needed to hear him explain everything, to face the truth with her own eyes. She arrived at Ethan's office, nerves coiling tightly in her stomach. He looked up from his desk, startled, and for a moment, neither spoke. The silence was heavy, carrying years of unresolved emotion. "Claire," he said finally, voice low, tinged with both relief and tension. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I need answers, Ethan," she said firmly, though her voice betrayed the swirl of emotion inside her. "Everything. The truth. No more secrets." Ethan nodded, standing. "Then you'll get them. I owe you that much and more." As he began to explain, Claire realized that their story was far from over. The betrayal she had felt wasn't real. The danger he had shielded her from was very real. And somewhere beneath the shock, fear, and lingering hurt, the spark of something deeper, something unbroken, began to flicker once more. Claire sat across from Ethan in his office, the air between them thick with tension and unspoken emotions. Her hands rested on the polished mahogany desk, clutching the documents he had given her. She had read them countless times, yet each page revealed new layers of danger she had never imagined. "You need to understand," Ethan began, his voice calm but serious. "Everything I did was to protect you. From the very beginning, I knew someone was targeting your family's business. I couldn't tell you because it would have put you in direct danger." Claire's brow furrowed. "Why not? Why hide it all? You lied about everything. Calls, meetings, even your whereabouts. I felt betrayed, Ethan. I left because I thought I couldn't trust you." Ethan's jaw tightened, and he leaned forward, his eyes locking onto hers. "I know. And I regret every second you felt that way. But if I'd told you, they would have used you as leverage. I couldn't risk your safety, not even for honesty." Not even for us. Her chest tightened. Every memory of suspicion, of anger, began to shift. The distant evenings when he seemed aloof, the unexplained absences, all pieces of a dangerous puzzle she hadn't known existed. Claire exhaled, trying to steady her racing thoughts. So all those lies, they were lies of protection? Ethan nodded. Exactly. I never stopped loving you, Claire. I never wanted to hurt you. But I had to keep you safe first. Everything else, even our marriage, came second to that. Her mind reeled. Protection, danger, love, betrayal, all tangled together in a web she hadn't been able to see before. Yet even as the truth became clear, her heart felt cautious. Trust wasn't rebuilt overnight. Years of suspicion and pain left scars that needed careful healing. Over the next few days, Claire took steps to understand the danger herself. She met with security consultants, reviewed suspicious contracts, and retraced the timeline Ethan had provided. Slowly, the picture emerged. A rival company had been orchestrating threats against her family's business, including forged contracts, intimidation tactics, and even threats to her personal safety. Every revelation brought a mix of gratitude and guilt. Ethan had shielded her from the storm, silently carrying the weight while she believed the worst about him. One evening, she found herself standing on the balcony of her apartment, staring at the city lights and thinking about everything she had learned. The fear she had once felt toward Ethan, the fear of betrayal, was now replaced by a tentative understanding, but it also carried a new weight. Could she ever truly trust him again? The next day, she decided to confront him not just about the past, but about the present. She arrived at Ethan's office, determined to face him honestly. He greeted her with a cautious smile, aware that the dynamic between them had shifted. "Claire," he said softly, "I know you've seen the truth now. And I hope it changes how you see everything." Claire met his gaze, her voice steady but tinged with vulnerability. "It does. I understand why you did what you did. But understanding doesn't mean I've healed. Trust isn't automatic. Ethan. It's earned, and I need to see that before anything else can happen between us." He nodded, a mixture of relief and resolve in his eyes. "Then I'll earn it. Every day if I have to. I'll prove to you that what I did was for you, and that I've never stopped caring." For the first time in weeks, Claire felt a flicker of hope. The storm had not passed, but she could see the possibility of calm beyond it. And somewhere deep in her chest, a fragile spark of something more, something she had thought lost, began to glow again. The road to trust would be long, but for the first time, Claire realized that love could survive even the deepest secrets, if both hearts were willing to face the truth together. The office smelled faintly of coffee and polished wood as Claire walked in, the folder of documents tucked under her arm. Today marked the first time she would meet Ethan in a professional setting since discovering the truth. No personal discussions, no confessions. Just work. Yet, the tension in the air made her pulse race. Ethan looked up from his desk, his expression calm but wary. "Claire," he greeted softly. "I wasn't sure if you'd agree to this." "I'm here," she said firmly, though her voice betrayed a mixture of apprehension and determination. "Let's keep it professional. For now." He nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Professional. Understood." The project that had brought them together was delicate. A business venture involving both their companies. The stakes were high, and collaboration was unavoidable. Forced into close proximity, Claire felt every brush of his hand as they reached for papers, every near glance as they reviewed contracts. The spark between them, once buried under suspicion and fear, flickered quietly, testing her resolve. Ethan noticed her hesitation, the subtle way she tensed at his presence. "Claire," he said gently during a break, "I know trust can't be rebuilt overnight. But I want to start, even with small steps." She looked at him, her eyes searching for the sincerity she had glimpsed in the documents. "Small steps," she echoed. "That's all I'm willing to try right now." As the hours passed, they found a rhythm. Discussions of finances and strategies slowly evolved into shared laughter over minor mishaps and witty exchanges that reminded them both of the connection they had once enjoyed. The professional barrier slowly gave way to human moments, the subtle recognition of old habits, shared memories, and unspoken understanding. During a quiet moment, Ethan leaned over to point out a discrepancy in the projections. Their hands brushed lightly over the paper, and Claire's breath caught. She looked up at him, surprised by the sudden warmth that radiated from his presence. "I didn't mean to startle you," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. It's fine," she replied, heart racing. "Just unexpected." He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "We've been through a lot. I'll take it slow. No pressure. One step at a time." Later that evening, as they wrapped up, Claire realized that for the first time since their divorce, she wasn't bracing herself for betrayal. She was listening, laughing, and thinking, carefully, about the possibility of letting him back into her life. Ethan noticed her contemplative expression. "You're thinking," he said quietly. "I am," she admitted, a faint smile touching her lips. "About how we move forward. About trust. About us." He reached across the table, gently placing his hand over hers. "I'll earn it, Claire. Every day. I won't rush, I won't pressure. I just want to prove that you can trust me again." Her heart responded, cautious yet hopeful. The years of misunderstanding and pain had left scars, but there was also a fragile thread of something stronger. Love tempered by truth and endurance. For the first time, Claire allowed herself to imagine a future where secrets no longer loomed, where protection and honesty could coexist, and where love might find its way back. They stood together, hands brushing, hearts cautiously aligned. The danger outside still existed, the challenges of the past lingered, but the first steps toward rebuilding trust, and perhaps love, had begun. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in months, Claire felt a sense of possibility she hadn't allowed herself to feel. Trust could be rebuilt. Love could return. And for now that was enough. Claire sat at her desk, reviewing contracts late into the evening, when her phone vibrated with an unknown number. Hesitating for a moment, she answered. "Claire Matthews?" a distorted voice asked. "You've been asking questions. Stop. Or there will be consequences." Her heart skipped a beat. The words were vague, but the threat was real. She immediately thought of Ethan. For months, she had lived unaware of the full danger that had been circling her life. And now, it seemed, someone had decided she was asking too many questions. Moments later, Ethan appeared in her office, his expression tense and focused. "I got the alert," he said quietly. "Are you okay?" Claire nodded, though her pulse raced. "Someone called. They threatened me." Vaguely. "I didn't recognize the number." He closed the door behind him and moved closer. "It's happening again. The people I told you about, they've resurfaced. I should have anticipated this sooner." Claire's chest tightened. Fear mingled with frustration. "Why didn't you tell me? Again." "I wanted to protect you," he said firmly. "You're stronger than anyone I know, but even the strongest people are vulnerable when they're unaware. I couldn't risk you knowing until I had a plan." The weight of the revelation pressed on her. Every hidden call, every secretive message, every unexplained absence, it had all been for her safety. Ethan's intentions had been noble, but the secrecy had cost them their marriage. Now, standing face to face in the middle of a quiet office, Claire realized that love wasn't the only thing that needed rebuilding. Trust, patience, and reliance on one another were equally vital. Over the next few days, Ethan and Claire worked together to identify the threat. Each lead, each suspicious contact, required careful investigation. They moved in tandem, a team learning to navigate the complexities of danger while slowly reacquainting themselves with the rhythm of mutual respect and care. During one late-night session, Claire glanced at Ethan as he reviewed security footage. His jaw was set, his focus unwavering, and yet there was a softness in his eyes whenever they met hers. "You've changed," she said quietly. "You've always been careful, but I see the depth now. I see how much you've carried for me." Ethan looked up, a faint smile touching his lips. "I've always cared, Claire. Even when you couldn't see it. Even when you thought I had betrayed you." Her heart clenched. The truth was undeniable. He had protected her, sacrificed honesty for safety, and endured the cold distance of a fractured marriage without complaint. That night, as they left the office together, Claire realized how close they had become in just a few days. Fear, danger, and trust had drawn them together in ways she hadn't expected. Walking side by side in the quiet city streets, she felt the old spark stirring, tempered now by understanding, gratitude, and cautious hope. "I never realized," she admitted softly, "how much danger I was in. Or how much you sacrificed. Ethan's hand brushed hers instinctively. I didn't expect you to. That's why I did what I did. Protection isn't always about visibility. Sometimes it's silent, and sometimes it's lonely. But it's worth it. If it keeps the person you love safe. Her chest tightened. The slow, steady pull toward him, once complicated by anger and doubt, was now fueled by respect, gratitude, and undeniable attraction. Then, we keep moving forward, she said finally, her voice steady despite the fear lingering beneath. Together. Ethan's eyes softened. Together. As they walked, the shadows of danger still lingered on the edges of their lives, but for the first time, Claire felt confident. Not only could they face the threat together, but they could also begin rebuilding something more profound than they had ever known. Trust, connection, and perhaps, a love ready to be reclaimed. The following week brought tension in more ways than one. The external threats were still present. Subtle warnings, unusual messages, and shadowy figures that seemed to follow their movements. But there was also something delicate growing between Claire and Ethan. The tentative rebuilding of trust, mingled with a fragile flicker of romance. Claire sat in her office late one evening, reviewing emails, when Ethan knocked softly on the door. You've been at it for hours, he said quietly, concern threading his voice. I know, she replied without looking up. I want to be prepared. For whatever comes next. Ethan stepped closer, leaning against the doorframe. You don't have to do this alone. She finally looked at him, her eyes searching his. The closeness, the warmth, the familiarity. It all came rushing back, threatening to break the careful wall she had built since their divorce. I know, she admitted softly. But trusting isn't easy. Not anymore. I still feel hurt, Ethan. Even if I understand now. He nodded, his hand brushing hers as he reached for a file on her desk. I know. And I don't expect it to be easy. Trust is fragile. That's why I'll take it slow, day by day. Step by step. The intensity in his eyes, the sincerity in his voice, melted some of the tension in her chest. Slowly, carefully, she felt herself leaning into him. Not physically, but emotionally, letting the barriers drop just a little. That evening, as they worked together on coordinating security updates for her company, a subtle yet undeniable closeness grew. Every shared glance, every small touch of hands, carried a weight neither of them could ignore. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and beautiful all at once. You're different now, Claire said suddenly, pausing in her work. I mean, you've always been careful, but now I see it. How deeply you've carried everything for me. Not just the threat, but my safety, my well-being. Ethan looked up, his expression softening. I never wanted you to see it as control or secrecy. I just wanted to protect you. And now, I hope you can see that I still care. That nothing has changed. Her chest tightened. The hurt of the past had not vanished, but the realization that he had acted out of love, not selfishness or betrayal, reshaped everything. Days later, while reviewing the latest security protocols, a minor confrontation with an aggressive client forced Claire and Ethan into a tense moment. Ethan stepped in instinctively, shielding her from a verbal attack. His protective instincts, once the cause of her suspicion, now reminded her why she had loved him in the first place. Claire met his gaze afterward, their eyes locking in a silent acknowledgement. You still care, she said quietly. I always have, he replied, voice low and steady. Even when you didn't believe it. Even when we were apart. The weight of his words, the raw honesty, broke something open inside her. She allowed herself to lean closer, brushing the edge of her hand against his. No promises were made. No confessions fully spoken. But the air between them crackled with possibilities, tentative yet undeniable. That night, Claire sat alone in her apartment, reflecting on the day. Fear still lingered, danger was still present, but the fragile connection she was building with Ethan, the slow reclamation of trust and love, gave her hope. She realized something important. Love wasn't easy, and trust was delicate, but both were worth fighting for. Even amid threats, secrets, and the scars of the past, her heart was learning to open again. Because sometimes, fragile hearts can heal. Sometimes, love can return stronger after the darkest of trials. And sometimes, the danger outside only strengthens the bond within. Claire had never been good with surprises, especially ones that carried danger. But nothing had prepared her for the envelope she found slipped under her office door one rainy morning. Inside was a set of photographs. Claire and Ethan, unknowingly photographed while meeting with business associates, but the images were cropped and manipulated to make them look suspicious, almost scandalous. Alongside the photos was a note. "You think you know the truth. You don't. Stop digging, or the consequences will get worse." Her chest tightened. The threat was no longer subtle. It was targeted and personal. Every instinct screamed at her to hide, to run, to retreat. But she didn't. She thought of Ethan and the meticulous care he had always taken to protect her. She knew he wouldn't let this escalate without a plan. When she confronted him later that morning, Ethan's face was grim. "I feared this would happen sooner or later," he said, closing the door behind him. "Someone is trying to provoke us, make us act rashly. They want to see you scared. They want to see us divided." Claire's hands trembled as she held the photographs. I can't believe how far this is going. And they're using us. Me. You. Everything we've been careful about." Ethan reached for her hand, steadying her. "I know. That's why I need you to trust me completely now. I've been planning for this possibility for months. But I can't protect you alone anymore. I need you with me. Fully aware, fully present." For the first time since their divorce, Claire felt the weight of reliance. Not resentment, not suspicion, but a partnership that demanded courage, trust, and teamwork. The threat outside had forced them into a new closeness, one neither had anticipated. Over the next few days, Claire and Ethan worked side by side, strategizing, monitoring communications, and identifying the source of the threat. Their professional collaboration blended seamlessly with moments of quiet intimacy. Lingering glances, unspoken touches, and smiles that betrayed the slow rekindling of feelings long buried. "You're incredible," Ethan said one evening as they analyzed logs of suspicious activity. "Not just smart and resourceful, but brave. You're facing danger head-on, not running from it." Claire looked at him, her chest tightening. "I'm brave because you showed me how to be. Because I know you're here. Because I trust you. And that trust isn't easy after everything, Ethan." His eyes softened, reflecting years of regret, longing, and hope. "I don't take that lightly. I'll earn your trust every day, Claire. And I promise, I'll never give you a reason to doubt me again." The climax of the threat came sooner than expected. A late-night attempt to access sensitive company files triggered alarms, forcing Claire and Ethan to confront the intruder. Not physically, but through quick, strategic decisions that protected both the company and their personal safety. In the adrenaline-charged moments, Claire felt a surge of clarity. Every secret Ethan had kept, every precaution he had taken, every deception made in the name of protection, it all now made sense. The past wasn't betrayal. It was love. And the danger they faced together had forged a bond stronger than either had anticipated. After the crisis subsided, Claire looked at Ethan, feeling both relief and something deeper stirring. "You were right," she admitted quietly. "All along. You were protecting me. And I never thanked you properly for that." He reached for her hand, holding it gently. "It's not about thanks. It's about us. And now, we face everything together. No more secrets, no more lies. Just us." Claire's heart raced. Fear and attraction mingled, creating a heady mix she hadn't felt in years. For the first time, she allowed herself to truly consider the possibility. Love could return. Love could survive secrets, danger, and mistrust, if both hearts were willing to be brave enough to try. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, casting a soft glow over the office where Claire and Ethan sat side by side, reviewing the final reports from the recent security threat. The crisis had been resolved, the intruder identified and neutralized, and yet the atmosphere was far from ordinary. Something had shifted between them. No longer was their connection tentative or cautious. It had grown into a quiet understanding, a trust rebuilt through shared danger, honesty, and the realization that love had never truly left. Claire looked at Ethan, noticing the subtle lines around his eyes that had deepened since their separation. She reached out and gently touched his hand. "We made it," she said softly, a mixture of relief and affection in her voice. Ethan's hand covered hers, warm and reassuring. "We did. And I never doubted we could. Not really. Even when everything seemed lost, I believed in us." Her chest tightened. Years of misunderstanding, anger, and hurt had created a chasm between them, but the bridge they had built, brick by brick, day by day, now felt solid. She realized she could finally let go of the fear that had haunted her since the divorce. That evening, Ethan invited her to a quiet dinner at a small, elegant restaurant. Not a lavish gesture, but something intimate, thoughtful, and personal. The candlelight flickered over their faces, reflecting the depth of their emotions. "Claire," he said, his voice low and steady, "I know the past months haven't been easy. There's been fear, anger, and secrets. But through it all, I've wanted nothing more than to protect you, and now, to be with you fully if you'll let me." Claire's eyes filled with tears, but this time they weren't of sadness. They were tears of understanding, forgiveness, and hope. "Ethan, I see it now. Everything you did, it wasn't betrayal. It was love. And I want to try again. With you. Completely." His relief was palpable. He reached across the table, holding both her hands in his. "Then let's leave the past behind us. No more lies, no more secrets. Just trust, love, and honesty." She nodded, a small smile breaking through. "Just us." Over the following weeks, they spent time rebuilding not only their relationship but also the trust that had been fractured for so long. The danger from the external threat had passed, but the lessons lingered. They communicated openly, shared their fears, and made decisions together. Not as ex-spouses, but as partners in every sense of the word. During one evening walk through the city, hand in hand, Claire felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. "It's strange," she said softly. "I never imagined we'd get here. Not after everything." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "I did. I always believed we'd find our way back. Not the same way, but a better way. Stronger, wiser. Together." The spark that had once seemed fragile now burned steadily between them, a slow and enduring flame. The love they had thought lost had returned, tempered by trials and strengthened by resilience. Their reconciliation was quiet yet profound. No grand gestures, no dramatic confessions. Just two people who had faced deception, danger, and fear, and had chosen to trust and love again. Each day brought moments of laughter, tenderness, and shared understanding, weaving the threads of a bond that was now unbreakable. On a calm evening, standing together on the balcony of her apartment, Claire leaned against Ethan, her head resting on his shoulder. "I never realized," she whispered, "how strong love could be when it survives everything." Ethan wrapped his arm around her, holding her close. "It's not just love," he said softly. "It's trust, sacrifice, and commitment. That's what makes it unbreakable." She smiled, closing her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt truly safe, not just from external threats, but within the arms of the man who had never stopped loving her, even when the world didn't understand. And in that quiet golden moment, they both knew. Their hearts had been reclaimed. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more original novel stories. And stay tuned, our next story is coming soon.